Nursery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm, the location of the new Knott's Scary Farm maze, Grimoire, and we are about to experience a really cool thing.
Yeah, last night was our first time checking it out. It was opening night, media night. I don't know what we expected, but it was so much more than I expected. It was bigger on story, the actors, the scenic, everything was just such a good time. And then we had this opportunity. Knott's reached out and said, want to do a little behind the scenes with some of the team here? And it was like 100%. This is like why we started Parks and Cons. So we are super excited to go inside, hear from the good folks at Knott's a little bit more about the Grimoire. All right, so we are inside the Grimoire, and now we have the good folks here at Knott's to introduce us about all that goes into this. If you would mind introducing yourselves.
I'm Eric Nix. I'm Director of Creative Production here at Knott's Scary Farm.
Hi, I'm Jon Asperin. I'm the show director here at Scary Farm, as well as a creative designer.
And where are we at? What are we going to check out?
So we are in the Grimoire. It's one of our new maze offerings this year at Scary Farm. And where we're at right now, we are actually in the pre-show lobby. So as our guests arrive here at the park, and they arrive here at the maze, of course they go through the queue line. They go and before they enter this particular building, they're actually exposed to a couple videos, some found footage of our three main characters, Sammy, Corey, and Biggs, and it kind of shows a little lead up into where the guests are at. And so the guest, or their role is pretty much they're campers, just like the three kids that are celebrating their last weekend of summer. And the guests, as they come and enter and try to celebrate that last weekend of summer by doing a little camping, they cut through this little abandoned house to get to the campsite before it gets too dark. They, of course, have to set up camp. And so the guests basically enter through here. We have a couple entrances into this building, one for our general mission and the other for our fright lane holders. And so as they come through, we'll kind of sort of walk through.
Sounds great.
You'll sort of start seeing just a couple of the, you can tell that it's going to run down. And it was probably a hangout spot for those trying to just, maybe that might have sought refuge in here over the last couple years. But as the guests enter, they're brought into groups here in this particular area from our fright lane holders right behind you from that side of the entrance. And to this entrance, you have everyone that gets grouped up, and then they take a journey right into the maze from this point on.
And you might see some references in here and whatnot. This is set in the 1980s, so This is the heart of the 80s. The music that you hear in the queue and what's playing on the radio out there, it's the greatest hits of the 1980s, which is one of my favorite decade. So I love feeling like I'm traveling back in time a little bit.
Oh yeah, and then and just in here too, you'll see some graffiti. You'll see a couple. If you pay close attention to some of the stuff, if you kind of look around the room, you'll probably see our three kids might have put a little stamp on here, and there's a a little backstory to the kids. The best friends, three best friends. There's two boys and one girl who is our fearless leader. Her name is Sammy. But the two boys have a crush on her, and they seem to compete with one another on her. But she pays no really mind to them. They're all best friends. They're enjoying their last summer. So you look around and kind of sort of see a little like Sammy loves so and so, and you'll have Corey loves Sammy. So it's a little fun stuff.
I noticed that yesterday, and I was like, was that the same Sammy? Or
yeah, certainly, yeah. So, you obviously see where the kids went through before they got to their campsite. They cut through this house, and they made their way to the campsite in which our guests see the kids at the campsite as they're ready to open up the Grimoire. So
a little sort of, like premonitions, right? Like,
yeah.
Don't read the book.
I was going to say, we saw Sarah Marshall referenced in the queue there. Would that be the kids that tagged her on there, or maybe
who knows? It could have been someone else.
Maybe it was Sarah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things too. I mean, we put a couple Easter eggs in here too. Awesome. Our team that helped put the maze together. We have Adam and Dickie, our audio and sound designers, and we also pay tribute to one of our old monsters. In here, awesome. So it's kind of fun. A little something that we love to do here at Scary Farm. I mean, it's a very personalized touch to the maze, so.
And it's something the fans love. Obviously, all of us that go through. Yeah. It adds so much repeatability.
Oh, for sure. So where we're about to enter right now, of course we're kind of sort of walking through under regular lighting conditions, but when it's in show mode, this whole entire area is just completely dark, and it's almost this abandoned trailway that leads into the heart of the campsite. And so, a lot of it too, once you start walking down here, you hear just the sounds of the night, just sort of setting up the tone, and in the background you could hear the 80s music. Right when we get to this point where we're at here, you could hear just this incredible medley that our audio and our sound team put together, that Adam and Dickie put together. In fact, one of the cool Easter eggs to this is both of our designers play the roles of one of the DJ and one of the radio personality, and so you'll hear Dickie, who's been here for years. He's an incredible designer here. He plays the role of our radio personality called Dick Ziggs. And so he has this incredible, and you saw the reference.
Yeah, we did.
But you hear the radio play, but if you listen closely to this audio landscape that they put together for the soundtrack, the songs were actually selections of all of our designers that put their favorite 80s song together, which is kind of cool. And then you'll have Dickie going in and giving his little PSAs, but when you listen closely to the PSAs, you'll hear references from other mazes, of just little small things that happen. And when you hear it, you'll see the kids playfully engaging with one another, with Sammy holding the grimoire as she's ready to read from the book. The cool thing too is that I think one thing that's pretty unique about this particular opening scene is that we really wanted to establish a different kind of vibe and a different kind of atmosphere. The playfulness of three friends really just in trying to enjoy their last summer kind of sort of brought a different level of a different kind of a humanizing moment. A lot of times we're so good at being creepy and so scary that it was nice to kind of sort of switch things up a little bit and make the moment vulnerable for our guests.
It's kind of nostalgic.
Yes, and very nostalgic.
It's kids getting together, right, for their last summer hurrah.
Oh, absolutely. When kids actually used to play outside, right? When they started playing video games. But hey, I was one of those kids, and I still play video games. So I love both. But yeah, this is our campsite, and this is where you'll find Sammy, and she's just ready. She just opens the book, and she reads the excerpts from the grimoire, and then naturally, they all get spooked out because something supernatural happens, and so the guests see that moment, and they hear the lines that she's actually reading from the book, and as she finishes up the last excerpt of the reading, it comes from what we call the Fable of Scourge, which is an excerpt inside the grimoire. We've got a little light display, and the guests are led inside this tent where a lot of the audio and a lot of the kind of cool effects come from. And as they enter through here, it sort of starts the guest journey into what exactly happened after she read the book, and you slowly start seeing that the lines that she read were actually opening up those particular scenes or the times in which this grimoire existed, and so it's pretty cool.
I love the detail in the campsite. If you look at
noticing
the comic books,
dark
they
entities,
may sound familiar to folks.
Yeah, our co-designer, our partner Gus Kruger, who has been a designer here for years, it just had this incredible idea about let's make. It's almost fourth wall breaking, and a little tongue in cheek. It was a little fun, but he sort of designed and put together these comic book covers for our kids. And the funny thing is that when you watch the videos, the Q Line videos out in the front, you'll see Corey with a pack full of comic books that he's reading, and he happens to be reading the Special Ops Infected comic book. It's so funny. You don't catch it unless you're a keen-eyed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did not even notice these last night. That's awesome. Let's go away.
So as the guest exit out of this scene, they enter one of the first worlds in which that grimoire existed, and one of the lines that Sanger recites is a world where brothers fight brothers, where blood runs thicker in nightmares. And so, a lot is pretty much said in that, not so much of a force-fed message, but it sort of sets the tone of, brothers fighting brothers that sort of, happened in the Civil War.
I see a gunshot in the shirt in the back. Interesting. I didn't catch that yesterday. Someone shot in the back.
In here, you find our nanny, and you start discovering, what this sort of all the different shapes and forms of the grimoire has sort of, and how it existed. It may not necessarily be in the form of the grimoire that the guests see that Sammy's reading. It could have been in any kind of form throughout time. And in this case, the grimoire happened to be a bedtime storybook that the nanny is reading to this child. And in here it's almost a reveal for herself too in her first interaction with the grimoire. So as she reads it, thinking that it's a bedtime story, you see the moment that begins her transformation. And so as that happens, as she reads the book, the guests are now trying to find their way out of this world and trying to sort of just make their way through. And as you could tell, the color palette was an incredible feat to do, and our paint team and our lighting team did a pretty fantastic job. That and Tim and Bill, our wardrobe team, created the costumes for our talent. So everything here is a black and white grayscale color palette, and if you look closely, that's the same thing for the next couple worlds. And the only color aspect of the maze is the actual grimoire. Mm-hmm. So you see the grimoire being the only color. So there's a lot of a focus, and there's a lot of attention to, and it's not really, again, we weren't really force feeding the idea of black and white in the color thing. There was actually a meaning to it. So it was almost like a conscious choice to have the guest focus on, okay, this grimoire, without having to just throw it out in their face. And so it sort of drew them in.
It was like the first thing we talked about when we got out of the maze was the color scheme in that. It really stuck with us.
Oh, sure, certainly. So as you go through, you'll see one of our characters, Bedsheet Boy. We call him Bedsheet Boy. He happens to be the sibling of the other child that was in the bed, and that sibling is here cowering in the corner because pretty much knowing that of what just happened next door. Now there's a lot of play into the acting when we wrote out a treatment for the characters. The kids aren't necessarily paying attention, or they feel the presence of the guest, not necessarily seeing the guest come through, but they're trying to guide the guest out of this world, if you would. And so as they come through, as the guests come through, they lead them into his closet, in which they push aside these clothes, and it brings them into the next, through a portal into the next world. So if you notice, as you went through the tent, you were coming out of a closet, and you're going back into a closet that takes you through into a new world. Here you come across World War II, a World War II bunkers and trenches, in which you see another quote that Sammy read, which is a world where screams of mortals in war are filled with pain and despair. And so there's a lot of you're now starting to piece together that, whatever excerpt that you read from the grimoire, you're being transported to where it was, where that particular grimoire has been.
The wallpaper in the room before, was that a custom thing, or did you find that somewhere? Because that's pretty cool.
I think that was something our paint team, Matt, and I think Matt and our paint team worked together in finding the wallpaper, but I'm not sure if it was custom or not. I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but that could be a great topic of discussion. We could ask our paint team, right?
The actors in here were so good last night, and particularly when she was getting down, telling us to get down from the bullets.
Yeah.
And it was we were talking it was something like a delusion or a creek, where it was very interactive.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
sure.
we're kind of ducking down to play along with it, and it was just cool to it was different than just walking straight up as we're always used to doing.
Oh yeah, it's a great little area. Our sound designer Dickie and Adam, they created this audioscape that it's almost like the bullets are panning from left to right, and with our effects team and adding, we have air blast coming from the walls, and then the lighting selection that our designer Harrison put together. It almost feels like bullets are puncturing through the holes, and you're sort of ducking and diving.
It's fantastic.
But it's pretty cool.
It's a clever way. We don't. we're playing with height in here, right? Because we really feel like you're in the trench. You've got these tall walls, and that there's stuff happening above you where you can't see. And then you've got these characters that are in the trench trying to, like what John mentioned, trying to usher you out,
Trying
and
to
get you
usher
out
you
of
out.
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here you come across a refugee girl, which was one of our characters, another child that notices you or feels your presence, and so she too is also guiding you through. And as you come across this blown out hole in the wall where there's a big huge firefight going on, and you see a visual. I don't think you saw it yesterday, but I think we're aiming to have that. I think today or so, but they have a visual of some hand-to-hand combat going on. But then as this happens, there's a big reveal, like the nanny in the other room. There's a reveal of the grimoire in the hands of a young soldier, and that grimoire happened to be a journal of sorts, as if a messenger was trying to cross over enemy lines. And so reading it, noticing it, and it's the only color aspect of this particular room, notices it, reads from it, and then again, like the nanny, you sort of see his transformation into it. As you go through here into a new portal, you come across the last and final quote from what Sammy read, which is a world where being thankful is filled with a thirst of blood and taste of flesh. And so that's sort of a hint. But as you also start noticing and looking around, there's all these crazy details on some of the dry goods that you have in here. That is very twisted indeed. And so as you step out of here, you'll see how twisted it is. And when you look closely at the details, I have my son's brains in here. It says Cameron's condensed brain. So we're really big on like Easter eggs, Cheerios, balanced diet, great for vision. I mean, you have all sorts of stuff. Cornflakes, they used to have like little prizes inside of boxes of cereal. Well, you get crispy fingers free inside.
Great stuff.
Yeah, little fun stuff. And then you come across this very clean mid-century atomic family. Very much, we wanted to switch up the just the intensity and have a stark contrast from this bombed out trench war scene in World War II to this very serene, very polished environment. But it's not really polished because when you start revealing, there's slight reveals if you look closely to the details. And again, we're not force-feeding the details. We'll let the talent do that. But you come across a very proper family in the mid-century that's ready to have Thanksgiving dinner. And then on the table, or sitting at the table, is one of our other children. This time it's we call him Thanksgiving Boy, and you can tell that he's very visibly distraught. And so the dad asks him to go get some dessert, and so as he gets the dessert, he's obviously, very distraught, feels the presence of the guest and wants the guest to get out and escape. And so he leads them in through the kitchen while the mom is scolding them, don't leave the refrigerator open. And so as you come across here, you really start seeing what this family is all about and what they've been doing throughout, what they're having for Thanksgiving. You'll have a video of, right on this wall of some cool stuff going on. It's actually, you'll see some video. It's almost like an excerpt of what you saw in our promo video. There's also a TV here playing. You'll start seeing some little Easter eggs. You'll see Futuretronics, in which you probably, if you were here last year for Invitation to Terror, it's this company that's very popular around this time. The boy opens up the refrigerator door, and in this refrigerator door, he leads the guest out, but the mom sees that he had left the refrigerator open, so she comes around, scolds him, and comes out through here. She opens up the oven, and then so our talent will crawl in the oven. She'll close it on him as if she's scolding him. Turn on the oven, turn on the knob, and then going for the attack for the guest. But by then the guest had already exited out. So there's a little play into the very twisted reality of what the Grimoire is and what it's done. Coming through. Mm-hmm. You sort of make your way back through a portal, back into the campsite that you guys were last in, and you'll notice that the two boys are missing, but it's just Sammy here huddled around this campfire, begging the folks that just came back out of the portal to go and find her two best friends. They went to return the book back to the treehouse in which they found the Grimoire, and she's pleading with them desperately because all pretty much hell sort of broke loose, and you'll see what happened to the to the campsite. You'll see blood everywhere. You'll have the hellhounds that have sort of stormed through the portals as she opened up the book and read, and so she knows that what she did caused almost a rift in her time in reality, and slowly sort of opened up these portals from hell, or wherever these hellhounds came from. As you embark on trying to find her friends, you come across Corey, who lost his glasses. So Corey is in here. One of the friends really can't proceed any further because he lost his glasses, and so he's pleading to the guests to try to find Biggs, who has the actual Grimoire, who made his way through a little shortcut through this log cabin. Now, when you go through the log cabin, you'll see a couple, cool little details and what's been happening out here. But it's an abandoned log cabin. You'll have a hellhound up here ready to attack from above. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was to really challenge ourselves with unique and different types of scares that where we traditionally would have eye level scares. We wanted to make sure that we're attacking the guests from above, from below, and all these unexpected scares. Can we feel this presence of what's going on? You'll obviously see, in some cases, you'll slowly start seeing maybe what these hellhounds might have done. And then you come across, as you go through here, you'll see those particular characters that you saw in the black and white world who made their way into our world. Now they're in a little bit more demonic sort of feel and look to it, as if they're sort of mutating or evolving. And here you'll see our young soldier that you saw in one of the black and white worlds going in for a slide rig attack.
Right.
And as you come through, trying to venture through, you come across this room of sorts, or the living room, in which you find the nanny, and she's holding the book herself, and she's almost rocking back and forth next to a dead body. And knowing that you want to get out of here and you know what's about to happen, you're trying to find Biggs. You exit through the back and come across the backyard of the log cabin. You'll have hellhounds coming out from this abandoned tool shed. Here you'll see our Thanksgiving couple, our mom and dad, just patiently swinging on the swing set, sort of just staring at the guests as you walk by, and the mother is holding the Grimoire as the husband is pushing her with this big eerie smile on the face. One fun fact too about this is that Chopper, Eric and I are huge Stand By Me fans. We love 80s flicks, and so if you remember who Chopper was in Stand By Me, it was named after the dog. And Chopper also happens to be our nickname.
Yeah, we try and come up with code names for all of our projects while we're working on them, so that we don't leak what we're actually working on. So it's hard to actually switch out of calling it Project Chopper, because that's what we all know it as. Yeah. And now we got to remember. Oh yeah, it's Grimoire. But yeah, this was Project Chopper for 2 years of its development. So,
oh, absolutely. One of the beautiful things too, just to take note of, is this backyard really came to life through our props department. Oh, yeah. And our paint team, Jeff and the team in our paint department, and Mackenzie and Erica, they did this fantastic job and put together this backyard. And they added the little small details that we weren't even expecting, that really brought a nice little personality to this section of Maze.
That's awesome.
As you go through, you can hear from this point on, you're obviously on the hot trail of Biggs and trying to find him and help him return the book back to the treehouse. You come across this lush ravine. And when you go through here, you slowly, from a distance, usually around this corner, you could hear water trickling down. And so you know that you're probably coming a little bit close to the treehouse, because this abandoned treehouse, or this fabled treehouse that no one's ever made its way, but it's at the end of the creek. You hear that water source, and so you have a feeling that you're a bit closer. Here you come across some of the more natural elements of the maze, from anything from different types of animatronics. You slowly start seeing this path that the hellhounds laid waste to, and some of the body parts, maybe they could have been remnants of the people that lived inside that tree house. And now you come across even deeper into the ravine. Usually you have talent that's scaring from above. and attacking from above again was our nice little play into different types of scares.
They got me with that yesterday.
You have like an animatronic that comes out, a spider that comes out from here. We had snakes that were planned to drop, that are going to be dropping over the heads of our guests. And you, from this point, you see Biggs, who has a grimoire in his hand. And so he's motioning you down to come and help him return the book back in. And as you come across, you really start finding out what the kids really actually did before they brought that book to the campsite. They actually were crazy enough to venture through at the end of the stream and enter this treehouse of sorts. Here the guests are walking under an actual waterfall that is just spilling and cascading over water right above them. You come across this gorgeous, facade of a treehouse. My partner Gus Kruger is an incredible designer here at Knott's. Designed this. In fact, fun fact, for Into the Fog, he created this treehouse set. We had a few people asking, what happened. And, he was very good about keeping it tight-lipped, and so it sort of came full circle when they saw the treehouse for those guests that came in yesterday and saw that, hey, that was the fate of what happened to the kids that you saw in the black and white world, and they're obviously you started seeing how dark this grimoire was and is, and as you enter the treehouse, you slowly start seeing, like if you watch the promo video of our actors, this is the treehouse that they came across the book. And so as they return the book back, as Biggs places the book back onto the chest that you found, he triggers a sequence that happens here in the room in which the book comes to life, or the treehouse comes to life. We'll have shuttering windows and these portals that open up, and here you'll start seeing the demonic forms of our main characters, our main evil characters. You'll see the nanny, the demonic nanny. You'll see the young soldier, the Thanksgiving mom and dad coming out of these portals, and trying to bring the guest in to their portals, or trying to seize them, if you would. As the guests exit through, one of the saddest and tragic parts of this is that you'll also finally see the fate of actually what happened to Sammy and what happened to Corey. So you'll see what happened to Sammy here. You're exiting out of this wormhole, this exit of the treehouse. You come across this quote that sort of makes you think about, what part you play in this whole entire story. And it's letting you know that as you walk through these gates in hereafter, your soul remains here in the next chapter. So it's almost like engaging with the guest and letting them know that they were actually a part of this new story now. We'll see poor Corey, and what happened to him with his cool intestines. And then you'll see the grimoire one last time, and we had a video, we have some video mapping accompanying this, in which is sort of sealing the deal with the guest as they exit out. And as they exit out of the maze, they are exiting to an incredible soundscape of our one and only DJ Dick Ziggs with KGRM. So if you listen to the station ID, KGRM is K-Grim, like as Grimoire, and then you slowly start seeing, almost kind of sort of bringing it up full circle with our Invitation to Terror storyline, where we slowly start seeing these same ads.
So cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. This is like, it's so cool to get all this information. Obviously, we totally appreciate the time. It's like surreal because we did it last night and noticed so many things, and now there's like so many extra little pieces that you're filling in there. Like, oh, okay, now I see that. So it's like, and yeah, it's just incredible the depth of story. That was, I think, many of the people we talked to last night was like, yeah, there's just so much story packed into this thing. And then again, it was so big, it was so much bigger than at least we expected. It was like, it was on and on and on.
That's Jon's specialty, is like the depth that he goes to create these narratives and these storylines, and finding connections to other stories, and even planting the seed last year with Invitation to Terror, with Futuretronics, and they were reading from the Grimoire, which is what caused all the havoc there. It's just bringing that all together, and the Grimoire is even more far-reaching than this story is even told. So yeah.
We noticed in the Beyond the Fog tour that the Grimoire is with in Origins as well.
Yeah.
And it takes us back to, so when we interviewed you almost a year ago, when we were coming out of the pandemic and we were talking about like coming back together and how emotional, but we asked you like, what's the thing you're most excited about? And it was like, is it going to be, Peanut Celebration? And you're like, Scary Farm 2023 is building the 50th. So it's so like, it feels like we're almost like to the 50th, even though it's still a year away and there's this whole event to go through. It's amazing.
Yeah, but we've been deep in development for on the 50th for quite a while now too. So yeah, we've got some big.
So that's exciting. That's exciting.
And that's all I'm allowed to say.
Oh, that's all. Yeah, no, of course, and it's exciting to get the stuff as you get to the that season and stuff. So, any last things we should tell people about the Grimoire? I mean, you filled in so much, so I don't know that there is anything left.
I don't know. I just come out and check it out. You got to see it in person. You got to see it with show lights on, effects going, with the talent in there. I mean, it's one thing with the lights on tour, which is great because you do get to see those details. But once you get the action packed talent in there, like it's a whole other level. So just come check it out.
Come check it out. Yeah, pick up some merch too. We have some cool merch that our merch team put together.
Oh yeah, it's actually a Grimoire like little was it like a purse or a journal? Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah, we hope that you guys enjoy Grimoire when you guys check it out, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the vlog.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.